Okay, Lindsey, what's in your lens today?
Yeah, so when the framers of our government designed it, they built checks and balances for a reason, to make sure no one in the branch becomes too powerful. But Donald Trump has treated that system less like a guardrail and more like a speed bump. He's not just bending the rules, he's trampling Congress' constitutional authority. Time and time again, Trump has taken actions that bypass Congress entirely. He's launched military campaigns without authorization. He's withheld information from lawmakers and even clawed back money Congress already approved. These aren't small slip-ups. They're full-on assaults on the separation of powers. Take national security. The Pentagon recently blocked Senator Mark Warner, the senior Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, from conducting oversight at a U.S. spy agency. That decision came after Laura Loomer, a far-right conspiracy theorist, criticized the meeting. Think about that. A sitting senator tasked with oversight was sidelined because of pressure from a fringe influencer. That's not how democracy is supposed to work. Or let's look at Venezuela. Armed forces launched a military campaign against alleged cartel members without notifying Congress, something past presidents, Democrat and Republican alike, made sure to do. Lawmakers say the lack of transparency fit a troubling pattern, the Trump administration simply ignoring the requirements to keep Congress in the loop on national security. And then there's money. Trump used a rare maneuver called, quote, pocket recession to cancel nearly $5 billion in congressionally approved foreign aid. Democrats cried foul, and even some Republicans questioned whether that was even legal. His heavy-handed use of the military has also drawn legal challenges. A federal judge ruled that his deployment of the National Guard to Los Angeles was illegal. Washington, D.C. officials have now sued him for sending thousands of troops into the city without local consent. And now, as the president threatens to do the same thing in Chicago, even one of his supporters, Megyn Kelly, is saying out loud what constitutional scholars have been saying for months. Take a look.
You really can't do without the invitation of a governor. So we're heading for an uncomfortable showdown with Governor Pritzker.
The same goes for Iran. When Trump ordered strikes on nuclear facilities there, both Democrats and Republicans raised red flags. Take a look at House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries' response.
Donald Trump and the administration chose to ignore the Constitution. And so they're going to have to come before Congress and explain their justification for an offensive military strike against Iran.
Even Republican Congressman Thomas Massie weighed in, saying the strikes were, quote, not constitutional. You see the pattern, but here's the bigger picture. Trump has already signed nearly 200 executive orders, even setting a record for the most in any president's first 100 days. Republicans, the same party that used to scream about executive overreach, have mostly stayed silent as Trump pretty much does whatever he wants. The truth is, the founders never intended for America to have an all-powerful president. They gave Congress the power of the purse, the power to declare war, and the responsibility to provide oversight. By sidelining Congress, Trump isn't just rewriting norms, he's rewriting the Constitution in practice. And the scariest part is that every time lawmakers shrug, it becomes harder to claw back that power. Congress was designed to check the president, not cheerlead for him. When it fails to do that, we don't just weaken a branch of government, we weaken the very system that's supposed to keep presidents honest. So I think I'm most surprised about the lack of pushback. Well, actually, no, we're seeing it now, just now about Venezuela. For a little while, people were quiet, and now J.D. Vance is forced to defend himself. But I think across the board, even with Megyn Kelly finally speaking out and saying this can't happen in Chicago, why are more Republicans who are anti-federal overreach not saying this is not what we do? I mean, historically, this is for decades. This is not what the party stands by. And I know Trump is an anomaly himself and always has been, but he still seemed to me to be aligned with certain pillars of the Republican Party. And this is really confusing, the way that he's doing whatever he wants, but also not having conversations about wanting to bomb a Venezuelan ship, about wanting to go into D.C. Like, these all could have been solved in the long term by addressing and coordinating with Congress and local officials in some cases, but he's just kind of skipping those steps and putting executive orders in place or calling it a state of emergency. And I don't think that that type of solution is ever long term.
Well, I can answer your question. The thinking of Trump and Republicans on, like, you know, why aren't they keeping to their exact principles, opposing federal overreach, those kinds of things? I know what their thinking is. Their thinking is, well, Democrats don't care about federal overreach whatsoever. When they're in power, they'll engage in all sorts of federal overreaches. The federal government ordered state and local officials to put biological men in women's sports. So if they're going to do whatever they want, we're not going to play by a different set of rules. We're not going to have our hands tied behind our backs. We're going to do the same to bring about conservative policy. That is their thinking. You can say that thinking is wrong, or it's philosophically wrong, but that is their strategic thinking, is that conservatives, Republicans, the Trump administration, the MAGA movement will not hobble itself if Democrats are going to do whatever they want when they take power.
But I remember when we talked about like the big beautiful bill, because I mean, or even not even the big beautiful bill, when we talked about everything that was being done by DOJ and how everything was an executive order, everything was just immediate and lots of changes were made, but they couldn't be permanent. And Marjorie Taylor Greene argued this unless Congress does something about it. Why are we not starting with Congress is what I'm saying, for President Trump to actually implement these things long term, even. Yeah, but it's still a Republican majority. So if there's a time to get something done, people always criticize Obama when he was president. He had a Democratic majority. It's like, okay, then why didn't you do everything? Why didn't you codify?
He had a Democratic supermajority briefly.
Right, and why didn't you codify Roe v. Wade? Why didn't all these conversations about what happened since then?
Bet it all
there's
on
so
healthcare.
many, exactly, but there's so much that people can do, and I'm critical on both sides. It's like, well, if you have the majority and you actually want to get things done, push it through Congress. I mean, like we saw with the big beautiful bill, they got it done with much contention, but it still was done. And now we'll see how it plays out for America. But what I think is that President Trump likes to skip constantly over Congress, and that's not a winning solution or a long-term solution. It's just what I'm not understanding from a party that has power in Congress, why you would skip over it so often.
I mean, they have power in Congress. They don't have a supermajority in the Senate. So technically, you could have the filibuster thwarting things they're trying to do. Now, I would argue that they should still do that anyway, and then if Democrats step forth, filibuster it, prevent it from happening, at worst, I mean, frankly, at worst, you can just do it anyway for the executive order the way they're doing it now, and they can say, well, Democrats obstructed us, and you got to vote, you, the American people, look at what the Democrats are doing. They don't want our, they don't want our cities put in order. They don't want immigration dealt with. They don't want any of our problems fixed. You have to vote them out of office and put more Republicans in so we can do it congressionally. They could make that argument if they try to do it the congressional route. So I would argue to them that they should.
And I think, you know, there's a conversation about the midterms coming up. So people actually can see what people want. So if President Trump pushes stuff through Congress, like the big beautiful bill, which is very unpopular, then people have a decision to make. Well, if my congressperson voted for this bill and they're up on the ballot again in the midterms, either they're staying or they're going. And if more legislation comes through like that and American people are not satisfied in the next year with how it's playing out for them personally, then they have an option to make. And I think if they're not satisfied with Democrats not supporting some of this legislation, then they also have an option. And I think that that is when America runs best, when the people have a say-so. I mean, if people feel like what he's doing is too much overreach, because a lot of people believed in immigration, but like most polls show around 50% or higher think what he's doing or the way he's going about it is too harsh. Let Congress come up with the solution in America. Vote on it, push it forward. I mean, we've tried to do that for decades, and he blocked it from happening when it was almost successful when Biden was president, just because he didn't want Biden to get a win. He played the political game, and now we don't have a long-term immigration solution.
I mean, of all the things Trump is doing, I am most confident what he's doing on immigration is broadly popular, whether I agree with it or not. I don't think this is as close to his policy. Also, immigration is national policy, so there's less wiggle room to just let the states do whatever they want on that. Arizona and Texas don't have to get. They can't have separate immigration policies. This has already been litigated at the Supreme Court level. So he's doing what he's going to do. On the other stuff, you know, starting wars, regime change, Iran, that kind of thing. Those are issues where, yeah, and even the, you know, Chicago or whatever, the base wants you to play to the base. We know what the base wants.
Now, President Trump is breaking from RFK Jr. on a hot button issue. Find out what he said next.